J. Cole been doing interviews everywhere. He did
J. Cole.
J. Cole to bring that back.
J. Cole.
He did Talking with Flea on Revolt with Cameron, and then he did 7 p.m. in Brooklyn. We've already talked about the Nadeska interview. So we're gonna kind of hodgepodge those things together and kind of encapsulate what we think about his honesty, if you will. But
and why people don't like the real J. Cole. So let's go ahead and play the clip, and then we'll elaborate on that piece.
Like, he asked me and I gave him everything. You know, I have a hard time not being honest. Like if you ask me a question, I'm damn near a dangerous interview, because it's like, I feel like I got to answer that shit with what's in my heart. And I gave Cam all of that. You know what I mean? Right. So I don't want to say the exact same things that I said on Cam on here, because it's there. But and by the time this come out, people would have already seen that. Mm-hmm. But what I will say, just for perspective of you, because you ain't seen the Cam interview, you know what I mean? And for all of y'all, it's like, yo, I didn't just do that because it was like sitting wrong in my spirit. It didn't feel right.
Talking about apologizing.
I did that because I was genuinely wrong.
Absolutely.
And this is why I was wrong.
Okay.
I didn't just do it because like, man, y'all, this don't feel right. No, I was in the wrong. And this is why I was in the wrong. One, I was in the wrong because I misrepresented myself and how I feel about this person to the world. Period, point blank. That's the first wrong. But the wrong...
How did people react to that first? Let's set the stage.
People reacted like this man said something anti-Semitic. Like he came in their house.
I'm so glad I'm not on the internet a lot.
And kicked their baby.
I just post and then I don't check anything.
It was like, yo, so he set the stage in this, right? He said the Fall Off was supposed to come out 2 years ago. It didn't come out. And I was about to, Might Delete Later was in the tuck. I was about to release it, but I knew I could not release it because I felt the pressure of, no, you moving on. You didn't address that. You didn't address him. So
he thought that the people would hold him to not addressing it in the album.
Yeah, like this album is not going to be anything that you want it to be because you didn't address him.
Right.
Even though his peer Drake, he never addressed anybody directly and just will release albums. Like you have a statute where you can release and move on if you don't want to move it. Yeah, a lot of people didn't respond to the Control verse. Like it's just, but I understand the peer pressure of it and what it is that he did and why people were getting mad. It's just, it's stupid that they fell in love with a persona that has never been his persona.
Yeah, I believe that people have a problem with Honest J. Cole because they have a problem with being honest themselves. They cannot see a version of themselves that takes the high ground. Yeah. They cannot see a version of themselves that doesn't wallow in the toxicity like we mentioned during the R&B conversation. People have a hard time not being negative. There's a type of bias, a negativity bias that exists in human beings that always is seeking out the pain and the hurt and the sorrow in order to feel something, right? If, let's say, for example, if all positive things always happened, we probably wouldn't like how this world was, even though it would be better for our well-being overall. We'd probably live longer. We'd probably, all of these other things. People find negativity exciting. And so when you're not exciting or not salacious or not, full of controversy, then people assume that it's not good enough for you, or for them. Sorry.
Yeah. It's odd because J. Cole, so you remember J. Cole's in this space where he was kind of popping up like Andre 3000 everywhere, right?
Right. I'm glad you brought that up.
He was living in New York, riding his bike, and they were like, oh, that's so cool. He's such a down-to-earth person. I sat and I got to talk with him for a while. And then when he gets on tracks and does what he always does, you see the person. He's always been that person in regards to how he interacts with his fans and interacts with the music and everything else. And somehow him staying to that, like, it's not like he was around like beefing or not being approachable. Like, he is the approachable one out of all three of them, the most approachable.
But people hated his music pre the dreads. And even like midway dread, where his dreads were like, kind of baby dreads.
Yeah.
They were treating his music as if it were always boring. And they were treating him that way because he was being himself.
Yeah.
And because they have this negativity bias, which means that like they're gonna assume that all things that he's creating is boring because it doesn't bring them into the controversy. It doesn't make them excited in a negative way where they can kind of spit their venom and spit their hate and make it seem as if he is not good enough. It's sort of like where people prefer a movie over a book.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? They're just like, J. Cole's too book for me, not enough movie. And
that was a bar.
And it's kind of wild, right? Like we needed Drake. We needed J. Cole to start doing the features and work with other producers and all these other things for him to seem as if he is something darker than what he is.
Yeah.
But that's just the mask. You know what I mean? And that's what he's talking about in this interview.
Do you think, why do you think people have such a negative, I guess, connotation with him and Jay's relationship?
I think that is based off of his own misinterpretation of that relationship. So J. Cole has said that I believed when I got to Roc Nation as the first artist on Roc Nation, it was gonna be like Rockefeller.
Yeah.
We were gonna be in the studio. We were gonna be making songs with all these, heavy hitters, sort of like what he did with Dreamville.
Yeah.
And we would have that energy together, and I would be on the record with Jay-Z, right? He talks about his first interaction with Jay-Z handing him the beat tape. He thought that Jay-Z was going to walk up those steps, play that beat tape, go back down the steps, and go get J. Cole to sign him, right? But that's not how things worked. And so I think J. Cole's own impression of what the relationship with Jay-Z was supposed to be created that impression for the fans. And maybe fans' own impression of what Rockefeller was painted that impression of what Roc Nation was going to be. But Jay-Z had already moved on. He moved on to be the boss and the CEO and the person that has to like help push the talent in the right direction, not necessarily be the talent with the talent.
Okay. And I guess the last aspect of this that we can like discuss real quick is, of course, he mentioned Drake and Kendrick in every interview he's had currently. And I think by piecing everything together, it just boils down to, I mean, they're friends, but they're acquaintances in terms of like they're adult friends who have lives, have wives. When we pick up the phone, we pick up the phone.
Drake doesn't have it. Hide your wives. What is it?
Hide your kids.
Hide your kids.
Hide your wife.
Wow. I did not think about what that statement. Anyway, keep going.
It's a weird thing to expect the things I think we expected from them based off of more fabrications. We built y'all's friendship and all this stuff up to be something that was like y'all talk every day, or you talk, way more than what y'all actually do. Y'all are around each other more, and it's just like y'all were really around each other from about a 4 or 5 year span maybe, and that's like touring and going around the same places, and then y'all hit y'all's peak, whether it's 2014 Forest Hill Drive, Nothing Was the Same, To Pimp a Butterfly, well, Damn, all of those albums, and they were just kind of like in their own stratosphere. And we expect this to be kind of like the Marvel Cinematic Universe and just be all together, and that's just not how it works anymore.
Yeah, I think the fans live in a world with most of the artists that they care for, where they assume what the artist relationships are. And quite honestly, I believe that fabrication or that story that people tell themselves is the worst way to think about those relationships.
Yeah.
And what I mean by that is we should never think that J. Cole, Kendrick, and Drake were the bestest of friends, just skipping down the mall with holding hands and singing lullabies or whatever. You know what I mean? It's just
Oh my gosh.
it's not that.
No.
Right? They're not playing double dutch together. You know what I mean? Like,
I'm playing red light, green light.
that's what people think it is.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And then they go into the booth and they're like, hey, friend, high five. Yeah, let's go. Let's make another verse. That's not real.
Oh man.
What's more real is that these are individuals making transactions.
Yeah.
And these are transactional relationships.
Yeah.
Until they blossom into something more that's transactional. Some people don't do transactional relationships when making music.
Yeah.
But that is because they're not transactional people to begin with. So all in all, I think people's made up beliefs about what the game is what creates those fairy tales.
Yeah, and the fairy tale will never be Drake, Cole, and Kendrick all on a song together.
Wearing turtlenecks.
That turtleneck. We'll see y'all next week in our next piece. So make sure you like, comment, and subscribe. A 1 and a 2. And peace.